It's great to be here. And we discussed that the second day brings so many thoughts after yesterday, and you want to rewrite and to comment and to reflect on everything what has been said. But I'll try to stick to what I've prepared and maybe just touch in between upon what I've heard, because many things resonates. Culture as a mobilization of society, and I'm bringing maybe the perspective of a corner that was not that much reflected yesterday from the Eastern Europe part of the world, bordering with Russia and Belarus. So we have a bit of different challenges. We are, in a way, still in the process of decolonizing ourselves from the past, from the memories. And of course, I wish very much that we could stop talking about post-traumatic experiences and start building and looking towards the future from the different maybe realization about ourselves. So that's why my first idea when I got the invitation about the hope for the future and what is the place of museums in that endeavor was the relevance, because you cannot do or impact anything if you are not relevant, if you are not visited, if you are not in the conversation. And in Lithuania, before the opening of Mo Museum, we had this a bit of chilly situation. We did not have a crowd of museum goers. The culture was not, and arguably still not, respected as a tool of uniting or as a vehicle for discussion and reflection. So that was the background we entered in as a museum, and I will talk a bit of that later, but the relevancy was my kind of background on which I decided to build something I want to share today. And then talking about the relevance. So for me, that means reaching out to different sectors, speaking to very different audiences, not only those that are maybe marginalized, but also the majority of society who were not still museum goers and did not value culture as something that could add value to our conversation and be as a platform or space for that conversation to happen. And that's why reaching into other sectors, building partnerships, working across ecosystems, that was my initial goal and view on how to build this museum. And that's why I took cultural education as something that has a lot to give or to cherish the way of building the relevance. This is a long-term relevance, and the cultural education I see as the potential of bridging the gaps and the distances between ourselves. So that's why today I'll focus on cultural education. Because this allows us also to reach out to those different sectors, which I will talk later. And I will start by sharing how our educational practices started, how they've evolved, what impact we've seen, and how it helps us to building that hope of future every day. And yeah, maybe I'll just want to reflect on the finances. We talked yesterday, and this is something that is important when we wish to have something sustainable that can endure for a long time. And that's why my thinking and working towards that relevance is bringing some proportion of imagination of what can we do, then looking for external signals. What are the signals that might, in the long run, help to sustain our endeavors and help us to move into certain direction, then act on those signals, capture the results, what we achieve, and bring them to the public discourse, communicate the results, and then speak to decision makers, and then in this way making the future to unfold little by little. And I will show how far we went so far in this way of working. But first of all, or now maybe is the time to introduce a little bit the institution we are. The Mo Museum is a private, non-for-profit entity that was built, established in 2009, by the family, who are the scientists. They got their fortune by building a biotechnology company. The company was sold, and then they decided that they want to give back something to the society, and they decided to build a collection. Although they do not consider themselves collectionnaires or specifically art lovers. They decided that, or actually, they looked for signals what is missing in our society, and that was the art, our history of art from 60s to today. We have a collection of over 6,000 pieces of artwork of Lithuanian modern and contemporary art, and all these paintings, photography, drawings, and all media were things that were created behind the official scene. These works are and were ideologically not accepted by the Soviet rule. So each and every painting was gained from the artists, from their studios, and the work of restoration and bringing into the collection was done. So now the body is quite already solid, and everything is online, everything is put in English, so we can connect not only in Lithuania, but also to reach out to the wider world and context. So what else is important, maybe talking about the Mo Museum, but we got this building designed by Dan. We opened our door in 2018. So we functioned for a decade as a museum without walls. And that learning of functioning without walls is still very much in our DNA. And I'll talk about this a bit later. But what else is important? That we got this collection and the building, but we have to sustain ourselves. And this, of course, impacts a lot how we think and our working methods, because we have to earn every single euro to cover all the costs, not from the electricity to the wages to any project we engage in. So that is a challenge we are quite coping well, I would say, but still this informs us about the methods and ways we do it. And then I see ourselves still a bit of playing according to the rules, ticking of KPIs, and I see us as a social agent who responds to the challenges of today through art. And in this way, I resonate a bit with what Alistair yesterday said about useful art. So in a way, we want that art would be our tool for connection, and in this way, in a way, useful to bring and to build the bridges and to close the gaps we are experiencing in our society. So this brings us to the education. And from the beginning, I saw the potential of art in formal education. And in a way that it can help or strengthen our critical and creative thinking, help in better well-being, and so on. But sadly, this way of thinking that art belongs to schools, formal education, being at school, was not, and I would argue still is not recognized enough and valued enough and explored enough as possibility. And then I first advocated and went to school directors, willing to meet them, to discuss possibilities of long-term partnership. They were often discouraging that schools don't have time for art museums. We have enough to do in our buildings and so on. And I have heard the message, but still we looked for those signals and ways to work. And although in Lithuania we are still in the process of bringing art and cultural education to schools, and 5 years ago these ideas were not mainstream, but today we have UNESCO framework for culture and art education. And this framework actually puts cultural education at the center of all type education. It promotes lifelong learning and of course highlights importance of mental well-being. And for us, this framework is not something not showing a new direction, but on the contrary, it just confirms the path we have chosen. Now we have this instrument to rely on or to back on, and this instrument was being prepared for a decade. So that was an external signal that is now manifesting in reality, and I believe it might be a vehicle for building the future. So our educational programs aren't about teaching art. It's more about thinking through art and connecting, relating through art. And for that, we use methods like visual thinking strategy, emotional literacy classes, and also cross-curricular learning. And this helps children, and we argue that this helps children to reflect, communicate, collaborate, and it of course strengthens critical thinking, creativity. And exactly this focus on the 21st century skills was an icebreaker for us to reach out to different foundations and partners that could fund and support our projects. And that was exactly what happened with British Council Lithuania, for instance. They worked on social impact. And then we reached out to them. They said that art museum, we are in a different kind of direction of what we are looking for. And then we introduced the methods we are working with and the results we could deliver as a museum. And then we have now for the 6-year lasting partnership and the funding, and we are reaching out to linguistic minority schools in eastern part of Lithuania. That part of Lithuania doesn't speak Lithuanian, they speak Russian. And often our educators even have to confront very provocative phrases like, yeah, we are waiting for Putin to invade and so on. So this is something you have to embrace, and the art actually creates that space because we come as with art and we are open for the dialogue. We are not preaching anything about the politics, and so we are discussing what you see in this painting, how do you relate to anything, what's going on, and so on. And we brought this method to Lithuanian language classes, and these are the reflections after the project. And then we had this final session at Mo Museum. Better than all the reflections was the result that children, they were wearing our T-shirts with Mo Museum, and we were telling, and they were started talking in Lithuanian, and the whole audience was already in tears, how emotional it was. And it, of course, brings this inclusivity and cohesion of our society. So similarly, the story was with Kazickas Family Foundation. We were hesitant about the possibility of any productive collaboration with Art Museum. And now we are with them for already 5 years, reaching out to underprivileged youth in the regions of Lithuania. So their focus is underprivileged youth, and we are their hands to reach out. And I must say that for us, we had to build a sexy brand of Mo Museum, and that meant to create some exhibitions that were attracting massive audiences. And one of the core exhibition was based on nostalgia for the 90s. But this is not the end goal to attract the audiences. This helps us to build credibility and also be something that is wanted and acknowledged as interesting partner to collaborate with, and the children, they are willing to accept us in their places where we come and work together. So this is also something not either or, but mutually important. Also, we built the community of teachers nationwide, over 6,000 teachers, and this paved the way for us to get this formal accreditation by the Ministry of Education. And it granted us official recognition to deliver certified courses for teachers, how they could integrate cultural methods and art into their process of education. And this, as a result, paved having this experience working with teachers, we could, and having this accreditation, as a result, we could qualify and become part of the Millennium School program that is taking part in Lithuania. And this program is funded by the Next Generation EU Fund, and 44 million euro is dedicated to integrate cultural education into formal. Again, that is working on external signals and kind of profiting of possibilities that open up and using them. So Mo is the only art museum to take part in the program, because to take part in the program, we have to have this accreditation. And we are now active in 18 municipalities across the country and working with schools directly. And this is a truly very deep and sustained engagement with schools, because each class has 8 sessions, and each session lasts for 3 hours of working with cultural content, art, and also the teachers receive 20 hours of training on how they could integrate art into their practice. So this sums up one path we were exploring, and the next one is the mental well-being. Again, 2 external forces, COVID-19, that was followed by, first it was World Health Organization report on the positive impact the arts have on mental well-being, and then the COVID happened, and these 2 external forces actually strengthened our case on well-being, because we had emotional literacy classes from the beginning, from 2018, but we had to kind of argue and explain ourselves what it's all about. But then these forces helped to strengthen, and we didn't need to prove anymore that this might be something of interest for school children, for schools, and now not even for the school, but also older adults. Still, I know how you are familiar with this report very deep, in deep manner, but there is a therapeutic impact the arts have for these conditions such as Alzheimer, dementia, and I believe that museums are quite strong in this field, working in a supportive role. But what is less explored, and what we are at the museum interested in, is this preventive role of arts. So in early education, for school children, for older adults, not to enter the conditions. And art is an extremely powerful tool in this regard. So we are advocating and bringing this awareness and knowledge to the public field, arguing that museums are here at your service to, in this very important issue, we can help in solving it. So, to still bring the evidence that our emotional literacy classes that are run by psychologists. So we have like 6 educators who have psychological background. we applied for funding and received the funding from the Ministry of Health, and we collaborated with Integrative Neuroscience Association to conduct a scientific study if our classes have impact. And of course, we shared the results that yes, they have, and we can build further on this. And this helped us. So that was one time project. Then we applied again to the funding, to the Ministry of Health, and got the funding to extend the impact and to pilot these methods not only to the children, but also older adults. And we worked with 120 senior in the, from 4 cities in the different 4 cities of Lithuania, and again captured the impact we make, especially working on the issues of loneliness, isolation, lack of purpose. And again, the psychologists were gathering together, and they opened up the space to debate and to share the anxieties older people have, to bring the sense of community. And what was in addition to that, as we work in different cities, that means we go to different art places. It's not only the Mo Museum was the final part, and we brought everybody to the museum, but we work in across the country, so that these people were not the art place goers. Probably for some of them, it was the first time they entered art space at all. So after the project, we also shared in the research, the survey we made, that now I feel that I could enter and go to art spaces and see them as valuable as talking to me in different way than it was used to be before the project. So yeah, these are some pictures of happy people taking part in the project. And about the impact, as Karen was also indicating, how do you know that all these things work? So for 5 years, we have evaluated our impact through quantitative and qualitative surveys. We measured how it works, how it was before and after, but now we are building the social impact framework. That means the framework is based on the theory of change that maps the relationship between our inputs, activities, outputs, outcomes, and with a view of long-term impact. And of course, again, this is a bit of playing by the rules, because this social impact framework will empower us to speak to decision makers. So upcoming surveys, we will have a Millennium School project in Kaunas, the second biggest city in Lithuania. We will engage with 500 school children. So I believe this is a kind of a substantial amount of kids to really research if the impact is there. And also in the autumn, we will start our first time long-term project with our sponsoring school. So they sponsor us, but also it's very much organic partnership that we can experiment a bit in there. So we will have 2 classes, and we will have weekly classes integrating visual thinking strategy for the full year. And again, we are applying we will apply a professional survey makers. So for me, museums should no longer be seen as extras in education or well-being, but as partners in shaping resilient, reflective society. And also, we come a long way changing the definition of museum recently. And I believe that, in my view, we are here to build the capacities the society needs. So reflect, care, and most important, to dare imagine differently. So thank you so much.